after 2006, the Chinese government abolished agricultural tax, introduced the health care system for rural households, but still the gap increased significantly. So these are the things that we need to study further. So now many people say this. So many people, because of this urban-rural divide, and many people claim that this was caused by hukou, by those distortions. Many people say, now why don't you just abolish hukou? Just get rid of hukou. And then if rural people want to move, they can move to urban regions, and they can do whatever they want. And then by doing that, you will reduce urban-rural gap. And then is this sensible solution? It is, we say yes, to some extent, because it will have justice, yes, social justice, and then freedom, and then it will have positive incentive and everything effect. However, no. Why? No, because it is irrelevant, as we argue, to some of the fundamental problems. For example, when a country has surplus labor in rural areas, it doesn't matter that much if you have a restriction or you don't have a restriction. If you have a restriction, these people being if you have a restriction, these people being restricted in rural areas. Now, when you lift this restriction without changing the fundamentals, those people may move to urban regions, but it won't improve the inequality overall, because these people will just become urban poor from rural poor. So they are still poor, but they just move locations. This does not help at all. And also, there's another problem that now China is facing, which is this land issue. So in some regions, they introduced this scheme, for example, exchange land for hukou. So when you are rural people, you are a rural person, you migrant, we allow you to have an urban hukou, but you have to submit your land. Because when urban regions expand, they need land. They need land, so one way of doing that is to give you an urban hukou, and then you give land for free or a very low compensation. But this is actually, we say, a very big problem, which is inadequate compensation for those people. This is why when you're watching TV, when you see all those social discontent, you see a lot of picture here because of this inadequate. And not only inadequate compensation to economic function of the land, but the market value of the land. And also, in another paper we wrote, the land has another social security function, which has been long neglected, because those lands can provide a social security for those people, but now when you take their land off from those people, you only provide partially economic compensation for those people, but not social security. So when these people now are unable to work, or lost their jobs, or go to a retirement age, they are not covered by the social security system. So this will mean a lot of loss for those people. So you will end up with this. And then, of course, there's some other problems, but many of them are standard development economics theory that can be explained by that. So, so the policy implications we can draw from this paper are those. So I will skip perhaps this part, and then I'll finish my talk here by just saying this is just one side of China, and although we emphasize a lot of urban-rural divide, a lot of problems that China has, but it does not mean that China does not have opportunities. As, for example, Jim Rogers' site that you can cite in 2007 when he sold his mission in New York City and then moved to Singapore. He said this in an interview. Okay, thanks very much. And then at the very end, I got a little bit busy and become extremely hot. I was not aware of what I was talking about, so forgive me if I made any mistakes. So any questions or comments, please?
Yeah, for the first question, I have to write it down. Yeah, except when you say to build, to increase the benefits in the rural areas, say for education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So take education for example. If you increase those sort of benefits, and once the people sort of got more opportunities, surely they will just like leave the rural area. You know, like once you get educated more, and then you'll leave the rural area and then become one of those urban poor, and you know, like you try to seek like relatively little, maybe not so much higher pay, but still higher paid job in the urban area. And in the end of the day, like you're just gonna have like a human resources drain in the rural area since they've got more opportunities, and there's not enough jobs in the rural area, then they will just all leave to the urban areas.
Yes, this is why we say perhaps to the abolish of hukou won't solve the problem, because by doing that, you will just move rural poor to urban regions without solving the fundamental problem. So the fundamental problem in this sense may be invest more in rural regions.
I'm talking about like when you invest more in rural regions, they will still move away from the rural regions.
Is that the hukou stuff?
Yes, okay. Yes, I know what I mean. But okay, be aware that every country has to have a structural change process. So, for example, in the UK, in America now, rural population or agriculture sector population accounts only less than 5% of the total. So this is a normal process. This has to happen when a country develops. So when a country develops, you have to have this structural change process. So most employment will be from agriculture to industry, and then later on from industry to services. You cannot stay in agriculture sector for, permanent. You cannot maintain, as in China now, 50% of labor, 50% of people, or more than 50% of people in rural areas, in agriculture sector. This is not sustainable. The sustainable way of development is to move people from rural regions to urban regions, from agriculture sector to urban sector. If this happens in an orderly way, it's a good thing for the economy. It's not necessary to be a bad thing. Of course, you need to control a brain drain from rural areas. Yes?
Sorry, so I'm not so familiar with this area, but in order for me to understand more, I need to ask some very fundamental questions.
Yeah.
So when you divide rural into an urban, how, in terms of land mass, in terms of workable land,
yeah,
how much is rural in terms of percentage, roughly?
Okay, I don't have a specific figure.
But roughly, ballpark figure for land mass, workable land mass, which you can use for farming or for something useful.
I would say very, very large proportion, something like 80, even 90%,
okay,
in terms of
okay.
land mass.
The next question then is, in terms of population, the difference between rural and urban.
In terms of population, now officially, roughly 60% of people are classified as rural.
Okay.
So 60 to 70% are classified as rural residents, but many people, although they've been classified as rural, they actually work in urban. So in terms of employment, 50-50, roughly.
So how much, so you think roughly 10% of people move from rural into urban?
Yes, 10%, 15%.
Okay,
yeah.
So we'd say around that 20%.
The figure shows roughly about 120 million. So 120 million people, they're classified as rural, but they move and they work in urban regions.
Then surely it will just filter down, just very, very slowly. The money will just filter down very, very slowly.
Yes, yes.
I don't know. Is it because the rural areas are not able to barter efficiently? For example, if you have